Hi guys, Grant Nelson again here with the Mustache Offgrid YouTube channel. In case you're new to the channel, I cover various off-grid and homesteading topics. I live off-grid in southern Missouri in a one-room cabin, and I use no public utility hookups. So that's just a little bit about myself. I figured I'd get into the get into the topic today. So basically just a couple things I want to give a heads up before I get into the video. One, my phone broke recently, so I haven't had access to the email recently, and I'm having trouble logging in, so I might change the channel email. So if anyone has any questions or things like that, I'll put a new email out, probably either in this video or next week's video. No one has access to the other email, it's just I don't have access to it. The other thing I was going to say is it's been cold out here. It's starting to cool down. We're supposed to have a couple days next week where we only get up into the 20s in the daytime, which is fairly rare for this part of the country. Our average winter temps are usually in the 40s, and it's supposed to be that way for a few days next week, so I've been getting ready for that. But I've been having trouble getting much done on the log cabin these last couple weeks because the weather just hasn't been cooperating. A lot of rain, a lot of ice, just not good weather. But anyway, I can't complain. It's other than that, you know, everything's been good. But I'll get into the topic this week, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about Amos Miller. And if you don't know who Amos Miller is, he's an Amish farmer. I guess he lives in Pennsylvania, in a small town called Bird in Hand. And basically the USDA and the FSIS, I guess is the name of it, Food Service Industry Security or something like that, services, something along those lines. I'll put a link, you know, what it stands for in the bottom here. But anyway, he's been having them come and confiscate the meat and the milk from his farm and other things, basically all of his produce from his farm. And it's all started, you know, just a timeline of events, all the way back in 2014 was the first time he had any issue with it. And I guess two people got listeriosis in Florida, and they were consuming his products. They both agreed, you know, to the products. They knew exactly what they were buying. But he sells raw milk, raw meat, raw eggs, things like that you can't get in the store, and they aren't processed by corporations and things like that. So they've been trying to get him to get a permit for years, and they've been trying to fine him for years and confiscating all of his produce for years. But he's continued to sell, despite all the USDA, FDA, FSIS stuff that was going on, and them continuing to come to his farm and seize all of his stuff that he grew out of his freezers and out of his homestead, basically. He's continued to sell all the way since those events. I think the first case was brought in 2016, stemming from the incidents in 2014 that the state of Florida had two people get listeriosis. That being said, he runs a private membership club. The people that join the club sign waivers and agreements. Basically, they know what they're buying. It's raw stuff that hasn't been pasteurized and things like that. So it's your own, basically it's your own jurisdiction on whether you want to pasteurize it or not, or what you want to do with it. But he has a private membership club, and he only sells to the people in his private membership club. But they know exactly what they're buying, and they agree to everything that they're buying. So it's like in today's society, people eat Tide Pods, and they have the, you know, disclaimer on the box of Tide Pods not to eat them. And it's like people know that they're not supposed to be eating them, but they do it anyway. His product's a little different because you can eat it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's edible, and 99.9% of the time there's no problems with it. And the ones that they have found, they could never directly link to his products. They, you know, they say that they are similar to what is found in his products in their refrigerators and things like that at their houses, but they can never directly link specifically to him. It's an opinion that his products are what caused it. But anyway, the USDA has been confiscating his stuff all the way since 2016. And I didn't know about that it started all the way back then. I actually started paying attention to the guy either in 2020 or maybe even last year. They raided his farm and took all of his produce and took all of his meat and all of his eggs. And they did it again this last week. I was watching a couple videos on it. He's been in court with these guys for years. They fined him $305,000 for not getting permits. And for a small farmer, or you know, a homesteader, the permits are really it seems to me like they're a way that keeps the small producers out, and they're a lot more well suited for the large producers on a mass scale for mass producing food and produce. That being said, though, I guess I'm a little bit biased. I actually have some Amish friends out here, no relation to the, you know, people in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. And every Amish community, everywhere you go, has their own rules, and they're all a little bit different. Some of them use different technologies than other ones. Some of them have different societal rules or community rules than other ones. I recently helped my friends out here butcher a cow. There was a farmer that had a cow that had a broken leg, and they were giving it away for free because the processing plants won't take it. And basically I helped them process the whole cow. We hung it up, we butchered it from start to finish, and I got my share of the meat, they got their share of the meat. And you know, we worked together as a team and did that, and it was really interesting, but it hits close to home for me because I have a lot of Amish friends that I work with, and they help me out and I help them out with certain things. And I try to structure my lifestyle out here off the Amish lifestyle. I don't use electricity very much. Certain things I do because it just makes sense, but most of the time I try to stay off the grid. You know, when I talk about electricity, I mean solar, cell phone, things like that, car. So I'm not there yet, but I do try to structure my lifestyle based on the way that the Amish structure theirs, and I do a lot of business with them. So the story of Amos Miller kind of hits close to home with me. I really find the Amish have a great way of life. They have it down, and if you're looking to go off grid, they're the people to copy because they've got it down as close as you can get in our world for the most part. There's certain things that they don't use that could maybe be helpful. For example, my solar well pump. But that being said, they have a lot of old-fashioned skills and things like that that are lost knowledge to many, and they have a lot of ideas and things that they come up with that other people don't know about. But anyway, Amos Miller, back to it. I think it's in 2019 they raided his farm. They probably raided it in 2016. I'm guessing that he's probably had his farm raided 5 times plus since that 2016 outbreak. They keep going to his house and taking all of his produce, and he keeps selling his produce. And the thing that I've looked at with this case, it was interesting actually this week. What he's doing is he's protesting bad law, which is every citizen's right to protest bad laws and bad regulations. And these aren't laws, these are regulations. They're rules because they're not created through Congress. Congress didn't go through and make these permits. They didn't come up with the permits. It was the USDA themselves that did it. There's no actual vote from representatives of the people that goes into these things. The representatives of the people created the USDA, and they gave the USDA jurisdiction to make regulations. But the regulations that they make do not go through Congress. They don't have a vote on the House or Senate floor. The president doesn't sign them into action. They just make rules out of thin air. So that's my opinion on it. I mean, that's not opinion, that's a fact, that's how these regulations come into place with the permitting processes, with the USDA and all these fines that he's getting. And I've read other stories about the same thing. In fact, I was reading online yesterday that there's 21 states that have made it illegal to sell raw milk. And there is talk, man, we got some busy people on the road today. It looks like the garbage truck is coming down the road. But anyway, back into the talk here. What was I gonna say? He's protesting bad law, and it's every citizen's right to do that, and he's doing it peacefully. They're talking about actually possibly putting this guy in jail. Could you imagine getting put in jail for selling raw milk? You know, I think that's crazy. I mean, there's people out selling crack. There's certain states that have legalized certain amounts of recreational heroin, and they're talking about putting a guy in jail for selling raw milk and not buying a made-up permit to do so. He's trying to give people their freedoms back. To me, I think the guy is a hero for protesting unjust and bad law. That's my opinion on it. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be rules and regulations for corporate manufacturers of milk and meat and things like that. But when it comes to little farms, you know, with, you know, I don't know, 100 acres or less, things, maybe even a little more than that, just depends. But small farms that produce their own meat and milk locally in one spot, they're not corporations. You know, these regulations are put in place for the big producers, the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis, the Walmarts, the Krafts, Kraft Heinz, the Mondelez, the Bayer, the Monsantos. These regulations are put into place for people like that. They're not put into place for the small producers. But the problem is the regulations are affecting the small producers. And recently, I thought it was interesting, this was a point of my video, is that Donald Trump Jr. actually tweeted about the what's going on here. He said, this is a Newsweek article that I was reading, and I thought it was good to see some politicians talking about this issue, because it is a real issue for people that have a small homestead, and if people are going off grid and they want to grow their own produce, and maybe they want to sell it to neighbors, maybe they want to sell milk or meat off their own farms in a completely free and capitalist way. You know, this is something that politicians need to be looking into, and states need to be helping their local farmers out and not regulating them into the abyss, especially the small farmers. I mean, if they want to put regulations on the corporate farmers that can afford it, that's fine, but the small farmers you need to make some exceptions for, I think. Because it seems to me they want that farmland sold off to people like Bill Gates and the big corporations. They want those small farms out of business because they're the only ones that can actually stand up in large mass to what's going on. And if you look at in Europe, in the Dutch and the French and some of these other places where the farmers have been protesting, and they've actually been getting a lot done with their protest, they're starting to try to ban nitrogen fertilizer, which every single fertilizer is a nitrogen fertilizer. When you spread fresh manure on the field, which is the most common way that people have grown crops for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that's nitrogen fertilizer. Because it breaks down and it releases nitrogen into the soil. So that being said, I think they're trying to put a lot of the small farmers out of business. These rules, I'm not going to call them laws, I'm going to call them rules, are not good for the small farmers. They're not fair to the small farmers, and they're not really fair to the American people in mass. If someone buys 10 acres out in the country and they want to have a flock of sheep and sell some sheep and process them themselves to their neighbors, and they have it all legally, sign a waiver and everything like that, everyone knows what they're buying, and you can't prevent every single thing that happens. We live in a society where we are trying to prevent everything bad that could happen possibly. I'm not saying that we can't prevent some things, but some things you can't live your life in fear about every single thing that could go wrong. But anyway, I'm going to get back to it. Donald Trump Jr. said, this is his tweet that he did. According to Newsweek on Twitter, I guess they said X, formerly Twitter. Stuff's blowing around here. It says, imagine what law enforcement could accomplish if they went after, oh, I don't know, say members of an elite pedophile rings rather than farmers selling to their neighbors. Trump Jr. wrote in a post to X, formerly Twitter, responding to a video of a raid at Amos Miller Farm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He said, can I be the only person sick of this blank? I'm not going to say the swear word because I don't swear. I mean, I can't say I don't swear, but I try not to. Anyway, I think you guys get the gist of what he said. The warrant sought, among other things, illegal raw milk and raw milk products, including eggnog. The eggnog was the thing that they were claiming that there was a outbreak in. One person got sick in Michigan, one person got sick in New York due to raw eggnog. And I mean, that is, the people knew what they were buying, and how many thousands, if not hundreds, of those eggnogs did he sell to other people that were just fine. That's just my opinion on it. How long was it in the fridge? Most people know that you're supposed to drink eggnog. It doesn't have a long shelf life, but that's just an excuse in my opinion. But I mean, it seems to me a little over the top to come to his farm with U.S. Marshals with guns and seize all of his assets because he sold a couple things of bad eggnog to someone. That sounds to me like more of a civil case and something the government can't be involved in. I don't believe that either the people that consumed the eggnog brought charges against the guy either. This was actually reported by Michigan health officials and New York health officials. It wasn't reported by the individual people that got sick. From what I read in articles, I've been reading multiple articles on this, it was actually reported by the health officials, not the people. So the people aren't even bringing civil action against the guy. It's just the USDA that has the problem with it. I believe that if you buy something from someone, that's an individual transaction, and it should be settled in civil suits. The government shouldn't be involved in that. This to me seems like overregulation. Like I said, it's bad law, and he's been protesting it since 2016. They've been telling him he needs to get the permits, and he refuses to get the permits and keeps producing and selling his stuff, and they're going to put him in jail over it. They're going to put him in. I truly believe that they're going to end up putting the guy in jail over it. Maybe people might raise enough GoFundMe money to get him out and things like that. He's still got a $300,000 fine. So I don't know if they're going to relinquish that if he goes to jail, or if he's just going to keep not paying it and stay in jail his whole life over it, or if they're going to take his farm, or what's going to happen with it. But to me, it's such a sad thing to think that in America, a free country, at least it's claimed to be pretty free. I think it's pretty free for the most part, but it's getting worse with the regulations like this. The fact that they're talking about putting a guy in jail for selling raw produce off his farm. And when I said it hits close to home to me, because I have a lot of Amish friends, there was actually an incident here locally, and this was, I heard through the grapevine. So I didn't see it with my own eyes, but people have told me that at the local farmers market here in my area, I'm not going to give out the name of the town or anything like that, there was an Amish guy that moved into the area, and he brought 12 chickens on ice in ice coolers to the farmers market, and I guess USDA or Department of Ag people came through, and they took all of his chickens that he put on ice and brought to the farmer's market to sell, and they took the chickens, they fined them, I think it was like $500 or $1,000 they fined them, and then they went and had to inspect his farm. And I know a lot of people in my area that won't sell stuff at the farmer's market, me included, because there's a lot of talk about them coming and inspecting your farm if you sell stuff there, if you're considered a producer. And they don't really define that term. But some of my neighbors have gotten letters from them. I think it was from the state one, not the federal one. Basically saying that they're exempt from the what was it? Exempt from the inspections. And they were talking in the letter. It said they have the right to inspect your well. They have the right to do this, that, and who knows what they, are going to find and fine you for. Something, a stick looks wrong in the woods, and they might fine you for it. I'm just saying that it's a little bit over the top, and farmers markets themselves are supposed to be local. They're not supposed to have that government involvement in it. That's the whole point of them. That's the whole reason people go to farmers markets, is because they want fresh produce that's grown locally, and it doesn't have the corporate farming index involved in it, and it doesn't have the USDA and all these government agencies involved in it. It's person-to-person transaction. It's a civil transaction, and like I said, it kind of hits locally because they, there's a lot of people that don't want to do the farmers market, for me personally, locally, because of these regulations and because of the letter agencies that are putting regulations on people. And like I said, they actually came and inspected an Amish farm out here, and I heard they really tore through everything out there and seized a lot of his produce and stuff as well. So anyway, it just seems very unfair. Another thing that I looked at was there was another Senator, Thomas Massey, in the article it talked about, from Kentucky, that was also talking about it, and he said, looks like Amos Miller's farm is being raided. With all the problems in society today, this is what the government wants to focus on. A man growing food for informed customers without participating in the industrial meat milk complex. It's shameful that it has come to this, Massey wrote. This is according to that same Newsweek article I was reading. It's interesting. I'm happy to see some politicians talking about it. I think more people this should be headline news. A couple years ago, Tucker Carlson actually interviewed, I'm not sure if it was the Amish farmer, but he did a segment on the raids that were going on this guy. And if things keep going the way they are, people aren't going to be allowed to grow gardens. They aren't going to be allowed to produce animals. And it's important to cause a little bit of a fuss about this, because we need to retain our rights, and really this is unconstitutional. It's against people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and it's against a free country and free economy like we have. So that's my opinion on it, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think of the situation or what you've heard on it. And I just thought it was relevant to bring up because it does affect homesteaders in the off-grid community. If you want to produce stuff off your own homesteads or farms, they're trying to set precedent that they have the rights to do this, and it's completely against human rights. We have a right to grow food. We have a right to have our own well and drink our own water, and we have a right to sell those things to our neighbors as well. So anyway, that's my opinion, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. God bless, and thank you for watching. You ready for your treat? See it? See it? See it? Nice catch. Nice catch. We'll give you one more for the show. One more, boy. See it? Nice. Very nice. Good boy. Good boy.